The Galactic Council's proclamation was delivered with the cold, unyielding precision of a judicial decree. 91 planets, they announced, were officially resource dead. The words echoed across the grand communications networks, reaching every corner of the known galaxy. Ambassadors, administrators, and scientists alike absorbed the news in stunned silence. For most civilizations, the verdict was not merely a statement. It was a universal truth, a finality carved in the void. A dead planet was a lost investment, a cautionary tale, a world whose time had ended. And for 91 worlds, that time had ended irrevocably. Each planet had once been vibrant, brimming with natural resources and life forms, some of which had been cultivated and engineered over millennia. Their atmospheres had once hummed with the energy of advanced industries, and their oceans teemed with creatures that no longer existed. Massive cities had sprawled across continents, connected by intricate networks of energy lines and trade routes. Minerals, water, and fertile land had been extracted to the very last ounce, leaving behind barren rock, lifeless deserts, and empty seas. What remained of these planets was a hollow echo of the worlds they had been, ghosts of civilizations that had burned bright and then faded like dying stars in the endless night of space. The galaxy reacted as expected. Most species accepted the Council's decree without argument. It was logical, efficient, and pragmatic to move on. Planets once thought fertile were abandoned. Fleets of automated harvesters were recalled or decommissioned. Ambitious colonization projects were redirected to newer, untouched systems. Scientific missions to the condemned worlds were minimized, often restricted to cataloging the remains and confirming the extinction of life and resources. Entire bureaucracies were tasked with verifying the deadness of these planets, compiling exhaustive reports on each world's depleted soils, dried rivers, and exhausted mineral veins. The finality of the verdict was universal. These worlds were no longer worthy of effort, attention, or hope. Yet, amid this galaxy-wide acceptance, humans looked upon the decree with a different perspective, a mix of skepticism, curiosity, and determination. Where others saw barren wastelands, humans saw a challenge. Where others perceived dead rocks floating in empty space, humans perceived potential. Their approach was not reckless optimism, nor was it naive faith in miracles. It was grounded in observation, ingenuity, and a stubborn willingness to test what others had already deemed impossible. The first human expedition arrived at Varelia 7, one of the 91 condemned planets. From orbit, it appeared as if the Council's assessment had been entirely accurate. Dust storms whipped across the red plains. The air was thin and brittle, and satellite scans revealed soil stripped to its mineral skeleton. Sensors confirmed what should have been obvious. The planet was inhospitable to agriculture, incapable of sustaining life in any meaningful way. Any reasonable species would have left the planet as it was, a silent monument to overconsumption and decay. But humans were not reasonable in the way other species measured reason. They were adaptable, unpredictable, and profoundly patient. When they descended upon Varelia 7, they brought with them a unique combination of technologies, techniques, and philosophies. They unpacked cargoes of nanobots designed to restructure soil at the microscopic level, protective domes to maintain controlled atmospheres, and genetic seed stock engineered to withstand extremes of temperature, radiation, and nutrient deficiency. To the sensors of passing alien observers, the humans' actions appeared absurd. They were planting life where none should exist, and their confidence seemed bordering on hubris. Yet humans worked with a quiet, almost meditative intensity. They analyzed the soil, adjusted mineral balances, and monitored microclimates, treating the barren plains not as a failed world, but as a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. For the humans, farming was not simply an act of survival, it was a test of creativity, patience, and persistence. Every step was guided by observation and feedback. When a patch of soil resisted growth, they altered its composition. When radiation levels fluctuated, they adjusted protective domes. Each failure was not a defeat, but a data point, a lesson in understanding the subtle interplay of biology, chemistry, and physics. The other species watched from orbit, their curiosity mingled with disbelief. Delegates from more conservative civilizations whispered to one another, "They will fail." The council was right. No life can emerge here. Yet, even in these quiet conversations, there was unease. The humans were doing something no other species had dared. They were challenging the galaxy's assumptions about death, scarcity, and impossibility. To humans, the term resource dead carried no finality. It was a description, not a limitation. A planet devoid of natural fertility was not dead. It was dormant, waiting for understanding, intervention, and ingenuity. Humans had a peculiar relationship with life. They did not merely exploit it, they nurtured it. If a seed could sprout, if a microbe could survive, if water could be purified and recycled, humans would find a way to coax life from it. And on Varelia 7, they began to do exactly that. As the first human crews spread across the planet, they worked in unison, combining skills that were as much cultural as technological. Engineers recalibrated nutrient systems, while biologists monitored plant responses. Farmers, who had long honed their craft on Earth, applied principles that had once seemed trivial to spacefaring species: crop rotation, soil enrichment, careful irrigation. But here, on a world that the galaxy had written off as dead, every method became revolutionary. Every green shoot that appeared through the red dust was a victory, a small, defiant proof that humans could bend reality, not through magic or force, but through relentless application of knowledge, patience, and care. By the time the Council's reports were fully disseminated, humans had already achieved what most species considered impossible. While the galaxy cataloged desolation, humans cataloged opportunity. Where others had seen only barren plains and exhausted minerals, humans saw soil ready to be reformed, sunlight ready to nourish, and water ready to circulate through engineered ecosystems. In the quiet, almost imperceptible green shoots breaking through the red dust, there was a message to the galaxy: death is not always permanent. Resource dead does not mean lifeless. And humans, in their stubborn, tireless way, were about to prove it. Varelia 7 was a planet written off by every scientific mind in the galaxy, but for the humans who arrived in its orbit, it was a blank canvas. From above, the surface looked like a lifeless expanse of iron-red plains, jagged rock formations, and barren hills. Occasional dust storms swept across the landscape, raising clouds that shimmered in the weak sunlight. Atmospheric readings were grim. Oxygen levels were low, radiation was high, and the soil had been stripped to a mineral skeleton by centuries of extraction. On paper, it was inhospitable. In reality, it was a challenge humans were born to face. The first human expedition landed in a shallow basin near what had once been the planet's largest river system. Even from orbit, automated sensors had marked the area as devoid of water, But humans were not content with assumptions. They began by surveying the terrain in painstaking detail, measuring the soil's pH, its mineral content, and its ability to retain moisture. Engineers deployed small robotic drills, which dug deep into the crust to collect subterranean samples. Microbiologists examined the tiniest traces of surviving life bacteria, archaea, and microscopic fungi and cataloged them, recognizing the potential to seed new ecosystems. Then the work began. Unlike other species who might have abandoned the planet entirely, humans carried an arsenal of ingenuity and adaptability. They assembled modular domes to provide controlled atmospheric conditions, allowing crops to grow in oxygen levels far lower than Earth's norm. Nanobots swarmed over the soil, breaking down rocks into usable nutrients, redistributing minerals, and aerating the ground at the microscopic level. The barren red plains began to hum with invisible activity as machines and humans worked side by side, transforming the inhospitable dirt into potential farmland. Crops were selected with precision. Humans brought genetically engineered grains designed for extreme environments, wheat that could survive low nitrogen soil, barley resilient to radiation bursts, and legumes capable of drawing nitrogen directly from the air. Seeds were planted in carefully prepared plots, and water, extracted from small underground reservoirs and recycled continuously, nourished them. To an outsider, it may have seemed a futile exercise. Weeks passed, and at first nothing happened. The soil cracked, and the wind swept away dust. Even the most optimistic of human observers might have felt a flicker of doubt. But humans were patient. Patience, they believed, was a form of strategy. Then, slowly, green shoots appeared. First one, then another, until patches of life dotted the red soil. The growth was irregular, tentative, but unmistakable. Sensors from orbit detected anomalies photosynthesis, occurring at rates the algorithms had deemed impossible, accelerated plant growth, and remarkable resilience to the harsh environment. Alien observers gasped, recording the unexpected results. Humans did not merely cultivate life, they coaxed it, nurtured it, and optimized it in ways no other species could imagine. But farming on Varelia 7 was more than technology. It was philosophy. Humans understood that ecosystems were interdependent. Engineers and biologists worked together to create not just crops, but a sustainable system. Waste was recycled into fertilizer, gray water purified, and returned to the soil, and protective domes allowed the sun's energy to be harnessed while shielding plants from deadly radiation spikes. Every element of life was monitored, adjusted, and nurtured. Humans treated the planet as a living partner rather than a resource to be exploited. Other species could not comprehend this. Delegates who had been cataloging Varelia 7 from orbit found themselves baffled. How? They asked one another. The council deemed this planet dead. The environment is toxic. There is no water, no soil, no life. Humans, when asked to explain, simply smiled and replied, "We farm. That's what we do." It was not arrogance, but a statement of fact. To humans, farming was not a struggle against nature. It was a collaboration with it. Even in the most hostile conditions, life could flourish if one understood how to guide it. As months passed, Varelia 7 transformed. The once crimson plains were now dotted with green fields, shimmering algae ponds, and vertical gardens housed under protective domes. Every section of cultivated land was a testament to human creativity, patience, and determination. Water systems captured moisture from the air, recycled it, and distributed it with near-perfect efficiency. Solar arrays provided energy for both growth and heating, allowing crops to thrive even during the planet's long, cold nights. Humans even began experimenting with hybrid crops plants, engineered to survive in soil that was naturally acidic or alkaline, or capable of resisting the planet's occasional bursts of radiation. The news spread through the galaxy slowly at first, then rapidly. Observers who had once dismissed humans as fragile and ill-suited for interstellar survival now debated what they were witnessing. Varelia 7, a world deemed lifeless and doomed, was now humming with the quiet rhythm of growth. Plants, microbe colonies, and engineered ecosystems were thriving where the galaxy had predicted failure. Humans were rewriting the rules, demonstrating that the concept of a resource-dead planet might exist only in the minds of those unwilling to try. By the end of the first year, Varelia 7 was no longer a barren wasteland, but a fledgling agricultural world. Fields of hardy grains stretched under the domes, algae ponds glimmered under artificial lighting, and the first human settlers had begun building homes, workshops, and research stations. Every green shoot that grew from the red soil was a small, defiant proof that humans could accomplish what no other species dared attempt. From orbit, alien observers could only stare and record. Their algorithms, their predictions, their centuries of galactic experience, all of it had failed to account for humans. The lesson was clear. Humans did not see dead planets. They saw opportunity. They did not measure potential in immediate return, but in persistence, adaptability, and the unwavering belief that life, once nurtured, could always find a way. Varelia 7 had become humanity's first answer to the Council's verdict. A world the galaxy had abandoned was no longer a symbol of finality. It was a proving ground, a living testament that humans could transform impossibility into reality. And this was only the beginning. Varelia 7 had become a testament to human ingenuity, but it was only the beginning. Where other species had retreated from the 91 condemned planets, humans saw the galaxy as a network of possibilities. Each abandoned world was a challenge to be met, a canvas upon which they could paint life against impossible odds. Word of Varelia 7 spread slowly at first through the stellar communications channels, but as reports filtered back to the Galactic Council and neighboring civilizations, disbelief turned to fascination, and fascination into unease. Humans were not merely surviving. They were thriving on planets that had been declared lifeless. The human expeditions expanded outward. Varelia 12, a planet twice the size of Earth, had long been considered a hopeless case. Its soil was acidic, its atmosphere thin, and its surface pocked with craters that had once been seas. Automated probes had confirmed that the planet's surface could not support agriculture, and most civilizations had abandoned it entirely. Yet humans saw a new kind of challenge in these inhospitable conditions. They arrived with fleets of ships carrying genetic seed banks, nanobot soil engineers, and modular farming domes. On Varelia 12, the first step was again observation. Humans took time to understand the chemistry of the soil, the fluctuations in atmospheric pressure, and the subtle movements of wind and weather. Nothing was assumed. Unlike the Council's drones, humans treated the planet as a living system, one that could be persuaded to cooperate if approached intelligently. Within weeks, specially engineered citrus trees began to take root. These were not ordinary trees, but hybrids capable of withstanding the acidic soil and extracting trace nutrients with extraordinary efficiency. Green shoots, delicate yet resilient, began to spread across what had once been desolate red plains. Meanwhile, on Tanner 4, humans faced a different challenge. The planet's surface had been stripped of all life for centuries, and no water remained above ground. Yet deep beneath the cracked crust, surveys detected traces of subterranean reservoirs, small, isolated pockets of water trapped over millennia. Where others saw emptiness, humans saw potential. They engineered underground fish farms, creating artificial lakes and carefully controlled ecosystems where aquatic life could thrive. The process was painstaking, requiring precise control over temperature, oxygen levels, and nutrient circulation. But humans were nothing if not persistent. Within months, the reservoirs teemed with engineered fish, algae, and microorganisms designed to support an entire food chain, turning the underground wasteland into a living ecosystem. Every world presented unique obstacles, yet humans approached each with a blend of science, engineering, and sheer creativity. Nanobots reshaped barren soil into fertile ground. Algae systems recycled water and generated oxygen, and solar arrays provided clean, reliable energy. Waste products were not discarded, but transformed into fertilizers, sustaining crops in a closed-loop system. Even the harsh radiation that had deterred other species became an opportunity. Humans developed crops capable of harvesting energy from the radiation itself, using it to accelerate growth. Other civilizations watched from orbiting stations or through long-range sensors. Some were skeptical, unable to comprehend how life could emerge from environments that their most advanced algorithms had deemed dead. Others were quietly fascinated. The more they observed, the more they realized that humans did not operate under the same assumptions as the rest of the galaxy. To humans, failure was not permanent. A barren planet was not a final verdict, it was a laboratory. An inhospitable environment was not a barrier, it was a puzzle to solve. As years passed, human efforts began to bear remarkable results. Fields of hardy grains, fruits, and vegetables flourished across Varelia 12. Underground lakes on Tanner 4 supported thriving aquatic ecosystems. On other planets, engineered forests took root, releasing oxygen and stabilizing local climates. Each success was meticulously documented, creating a growing compendium of techniques that could be adapted to other worlds. Humans shared knowledge freely among their colonies, spreading innovations across light years faster than any other civilization could replicate. By the 10th year, the galaxy could no longer ignore the scale of human achievement. What had been 91 resource-dead planets were now, at least partially, alive. Some worlds had sprawling agricultural zones. Others had entire ecosystems built from the ground up. Humans had demonstrated not just survival, but the ability to cultivate life where no life had existed for centuries. Their efforts were not limited to a single strategy, but involved creativity, observation, and adaptation at every level. No algorithm, no council ruling, no centuries of experience could predict the success humans were achieving through patience, ingenuity, and relentless determination. The transformation was not merely ecological, but philosophical. Alien observers began to question their understanding of life potential and dead worlds. Could a planet ever truly be resource dead if a species was capable of coaxing life from every atom of soil, every drop of water, and every ray of light? Humans had not just farmed, they had rewritten the rules of possibility, demonstrating that life was not solely a matter of existing conditions, but of vision, effort, and adaptability. And so, the humans continued to expand, planet by planet. Each new world was a test, each success a demonstration that the galaxy's assumptions could be challenged. Where once there had been dust, stone, and despair, there was now water, green fields, and the promise of life. The humans' colonies were no longer anomalies. They were living proof that resource dead did not mean lifeless. Virelia 7 had been the first. Virelia 12 and Tanner 4 were only the beginning. Across the galaxy, the humans' presence grew, not through conquest or domination, but through cultivation, creation, and the audacious insistence that life could thrive where others had given up. The message was clear, and it spread quietly but inexorably in every patch of barren soil, every drop of water, every scrap of surviving life. Humans saw possibility. And wherever humans saw possibility, life followed. For decades, the Galactic Council and neighboring civilizations had dismissed the humans' efforts as curious experiments, a novelty unlikely to succeed on any significant scale. Virelia 7 had been an anomaly, a single dot of green against a red wasteland. But as humans began transforming other planets, Virelia 12, Tanner 4, and dozens more, the galaxy could no longer ignore the phenomena. The scale of human achievement defied every prediction, every model, and every assumption about the limits of survival and ingenuity. Delegates from the Council were among the first to observe in person. They arrived in orbit over Virelia 7, expecting to find a fledgling colony teetering on the brink of failure. What they encountered instead was astonishing. Fields of hardy grains swayed under protective domes, algae ponds shimmered in artificial sunlight, and small forests of engineered trees released oxygen into the tenuous atmosphere. A network of vertical farms, humming with automated systems, rose like towers among the plains, each one producing more than the Council's analysts had predicted possible for a planet of such limited potential. Council observers were taken aback by the sheer efficiency and harmony of the human systems. Water was recycled with near-perfect accuracy, nutrients were meticulously distributed, and crops thrived in conditions that should have been fatal. Even the harsh radiation, which had once made planets like Virelia 7 inhospitable, had been integrated into the humans' farming methods. Certain crops absorbed the radiation as energy, accelerating their growth in ways that stunned the galaxy's most advanced agricultural scientists. Yet, it was not just the technology that impressed the delegates, it was the humans themselves. Unlike other species, humans worked with patience, intuition, and a deep connection to the life they were cultivating. Scientists, engineers, and farmers collaborated seamlessly, often in ways that seemed almost organic to outsiders. The humans observed the planet, listened to its subtle cues, and adapted their techniques accordingly. Every success and every minor failure informed the next step. What looked to aliens like stubbornness was, in reality, a philosophy of resilience. No challenge was insurmountable, no planet truly dead. Among the Council, the debate was heated. "They are succeeding where we have failed," said a Virelian diplomat, voice tight with disbelief. The planets were resource dead, stripped of everything. Yet they have produced viable ecosystems, thriving agriculture, and sustainable life support networks. How is this possible? A human representative speaking calmly from one of the domes, responded, "You call them dead. We call them alive. Life is not limited to what remains. It is cultivated in what is possible. A planet's soil, sunlight, and water, however scarce, are enough if one is willing to understand them and work with them. That is all farming is. That is all we have ever done." The statement, simple as it was, sent ripples through the galaxy. Humans were not claiming supremacy, nor were they seeking to conquer or dominate. They were demonstrating a principle that life could flourish if one possessed the knowledge, creativity, and determination to cultivate it. Where other species measured potential in terms of immediate return or natural abundance, humans measured potential in patience, observation, and the capacity to transform adversity into growth. News of human success spread quickly. Scholars, scientists, and explorers from countless species requested permission to visit the transformed planets, eager to study these unprecedented ecosystems. Some were skeptical, unable to reconcile the human success with their own understanding of physics, biology, and resource management. Others were cautiously hopeful, realizing that humans had introduced a new paradigm, one where no planet was permanently lost, no resource truly depleted. Virelia 7 became a symbol, a living demonstration of human ingenuity. Visitors walked through the green fields and vertical farms, observing crops that had grown in conditions previously deemed fatal. They tasted fruits and grains that had been produced in soil stripped to its mineral skeleton, and they drank water recycled with such efficiency that it would have been impossible under other civilizations' methods. Every observation challenged the galaxy's assumptions, and slowly, a new understanding began to take root. Humans did not see scarcity as a limit, they saw it as a puzzle, an opportunity to innovate. Even political leaders began to take notice. The Council, which had once viewed human colonies as minor anomalies, convened emergency sessions to reassess the humans' role in the galaxy. Reports that had previously categorized planets as resource dead were being rewritten in light of human techniques. Where once there had been absolutes, there was now room for nuance and experimentation. Human colonies, it seemed, were not just surviving, they were redefining the rules of survival itself. By the time the 10th human colony had been fully established on a former resource-dead planet, it was undeniable. Humanity had forced the galaxy to reconsider the very definition of life potential. Their philosophy was simple, almost audacious in its clarity. Every planet had value. Every drop of water and atom of soil could be transformed, and failure was only a temporary setback. The humans were not merely altering planets, they were reshaping the galaxy's perception of possibility, teaching civilizations that life was not merely inherited from nature, but could be nurtured, cultivated, and multiplied against the odds. The Council, for the first time in centuries, had no choice but to acknowledge the humans' achievements. Delegates who had arrived skeptical and condescending left thoughtful and quietly impressed. A Virelian scientist standing beside a dome that housed a thriving orchard finally admitted, "We declared this planet dead. Humans have made it alive." Perhaps we were too limited in our vision to see what is truly possible. Humans, as always, continued their work. They did not pause for praise or recognition. For them, each planet was another opportunity, another test of patience and ingenuity. Virelia 7 had been the beginning, but the galaxy's 91 formerly dead planets would not remain lifeless for long. And in every green shoot, every thriving pond, and every engineered forest, the galaxy saw a lesson being quietly taught. Life could flourish anywhere humans chose to make it so. The message resonated far beyond the domes and fields. Across the galaxy, species began to whisper of the humans' audacity, their resilience, and their unshakable faith in the potential of life. For the first time, the galaxy understood that resource-dead planets were not permanent losses. They were stages upon which humans would demonstrate, again and again, that life could be coaxed from the impossible. And the humans, serene in their work, continued planting, harvesting, and nurturing, utterly indifferent to the astonishment of the universe. By the dawn of the next century, the transformation wrought by humans across the 91 once resource-dead planets was undeniable. What had been dismissed as barren wastelands, stripped of minerals, lifeless oceans, and exhausted soils, were now bustling with life. From orbit, the planets shimmered with vitality. Fields of grain, orchards of resilient fruit trees, vertical farms humming with energy, algae ponds producing oxygen, and underground lakes teeming with engineered aquatic ecosystems. Each world was a testament to the combination of human ingenuity, determination, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of life where others saw only emptiness. The galaxy began to speak differently about humans. Once considered fragile newcomers, a species barely a few millennia out of their home system, humans were now recognized as architects of life, creators who could bend barren worlds to their will without violating natural laws. They were not conquerors or exploiters. They were cultivators, healers of worlds that the galaxy had deemed beyond hope. Across countless star systems, scholars debated, politicians reconsidered, and explorers observed. Humans were redefining the concept of survival, showing that the lifeless was never truly lifeless if life had vision, patience, and persistence behind it. On Varelia 7, the first planet they had revived, the human colonies had expanded into thriving cities. Green fields stretched across once crimson plains, dotted with domes and irrigation systems that now blended seamlessly into the transformed landscape. Engineers had designed living buildings, integrating vertical farms into residential and commercial structures. Energy was harvested efficiently from solar arrays and wind turbines, while water cycles were managed so meticulously that the planet was nearly self-sustaining. Children born on Varelia 7 learned to tend crops, monitor ecosystems, and understand the delicate balance that allowed life to flourish on what was once declared dead. Other planets told similar stories. Varelia 12, previously a desolate sphere of acidic soil and thin atmosphere, now supported orchards, greenhouses, and flowing streams. Tanner 4, once a lifeless expanse, had become a subterranean Eden of water reservoir and aquaculture, feeding a growing population of humans. Across dozens of other formerly condemned planets, humans had introduced ecosystems from scratch, engineered forests to stabilize climates, soil microbes to regenerate barren land, algae systems to produce oxygen and nutrition, and crops designed for environments that had once been unyielding. The scale and precision of these efforts were unprecedented in the history of the galaxy. The impact on other civilizations was profound. Some watched skeptically, certain that the human success was an anomaly or a fluke. Others began to imitate human methods, though few could replicate the results, lacking the combination of patience, creativity, and adaptability that humans applied so naturally. The very definitions of resource, dead, and lifeless began to shift. No longer were these absolute terms. Instead, they became challenges to be overcome, puzzles to be solved by ingenuity rather than mere brute force or extraction. Even the Galactic Council, the very body that had once declared 91 planets dead, now faced an uncomfortable truth. The humans had demonstrated that life potential was not simply a matter of existing resources. It was a matter of understanding, effort, and vision. Where the Council had seen finality, humans had created opportunity. Their success had reshaped policies, inspired scientific inquiry, and provoked philosophical debate. Could the concept of a dead planet ever truly exist if humans or any species with comparable creativity and persistence were willing to intervene? On Varelia 7, as the first green shoots pushed through the red soil, humans had learned a lesson that the galaxy would come to understand in time. The measure of a civilization was not in the resources it consumed, but in the life it nurtured. Every plant, every microbe, every drop of water carefully managed was a testament to the human's ethos, that survival was only the first step, and flourishing was the true achievement. Humans saw planets not as commodities, but as living partners, waiting to be understood and tended. They measured potential not by what was present, but by what could be achieved. In small moments, the philosophy was simple yet profound. On Varelia 7, a child knelt beside a sapling planted in crimson soil. "Grow," the child whispered, hands gently covering the roots. "Show them what humans can do." The seed sprouted, as if acknowledging the command, reaching skyward with vigor and resilience. Across the galaxy, each plant, each field, each thriving pond was an answer to the same command. Humans had shown that life, when cultivated with patience, ingenuity, and care, could rise even from the most hopeless of circumstances. As decades passed, the human colonies matured into self-sustaining civilizations, interconnected through trade, communication, and shared knowledge. Innovations developed on one planet were applied to others, accelerating the process of transformation. The 91 formerly resource-dead worlds became a network of living testaments, demonstrating that life could be preserved, restored, and expanded anywhere. The galaxy had no choice but to acknowledge a new reality. Humans had redefined what it meant for a planet to be resource-dead. They had challenged assumptions, overturned predictions, and proved that the limits of possibility were often self-imposed. Where others saw finality, humans saw beginnings. Where others saw emptiness, humans planted hope. And wherever humans went, life followed, not through domination or conquest, but through cultivation, patience, and the quiet, relentless application of ingenuity. In the end, humans did not merely survive in a hostile galaxy, they reshaped it. The 91 planets, once considered lost, became living proof of humanity's unique approach, a combination of intellect, curiosity, and unyielding determination. Life was no longer measured by what already existed, but by what could be made to exist. And in every thriving field, every shimmering pond, every engineered forest, the galaxy could see the enduring truth of humanity, that where humans went, life would always find a way.